Welcome to the Aquaspresso Coffee Academy, and today I'm going to be talking about the difference between artisanal roasters and big commercial roasters. So most people today have seen small artisanal roasters. They're often found in a coffee shop, and inside that coffee shop they have a spot where they have a roaster, and they have the turning wheel of the roaster as your coffee beans change from the green to the brown. And artisanal roasters are great for the biggest reason is that they have that whole romantic side about it. You can see people roasting in front of you. There's all those machines that don't come into it. It's often the roast master which has that, you can almost taste the roast master's touch on that coffee. Now, the problem or the challenge with artisanal roasters and small roasters is they roast by feel, by touch, by experience, but typically not by science. And a lot of roasting, especially almost all commercial roasting these days, have gone the science route, because going the science route essentially guarantees you pretty much a perfect cup of coffee, where going the artisanal route or the by hand route is often a lot of luck of the draw. You can get an amazing roast if you get lucky, but there's so many controls which often just don't take place because the equipment or the machinery is not there. So what is the difference? What does the commercial roaster bring that the artisanal roaster doesn't have? So there's pretty much 5 big checks which a proper big commercial roaster needs to have to guarantee a perfect cup of coffee, and that the artisanal roaster just can't do. So number 1, all commercial roasters typically have what they call an Acton colorimeter. And what that is that they use a piece of equipment to test the color of the coffee. They shine a bit of light on it and how that refracts into a measuring equipment, and that degree of color is then checked against different standards in that. And without that, the artisanal roaster on the other side has his hand and has light and kind of looks at it and says, well, what type of shade of brown this is, and very hard to get a proper reading on that way. So very important test, and one thing which almost never gets done by a small roaster. Second thing which is important, and this is specifically for ground coffee, is you have a Sieve Analyzer, and that takes your coffee which has been ground and checks to the micron what level or degree it's been ground to. And that's super important, especially when you get to like the filter coffees, because the extraction of the filter coffee is directly or almost exactly attributed to what grind that is. And without a proper Sieve Analyzer, maybe your grind has been grinding for 6 months or a year, and if you're not checking it each time, you can make a big mistake and your extraction can be terrible after that. Next thing you want to check is your roast degree. And when you roast coffee, what typically happens is you have the artisanal roaster, they have their watch, usually not a digital watch, it's a wind-up watch or an analog watch, and they're checking it out and say, okay, 7.5 minutes, time to stop roasting, which is okay-ish. Again, there's a lot of guessing, and well, maybe I've got to roast it the extra 30 seconds because it's not kind of brown enough. Commercial roaster has proper checks in, which checks to the degree that now the coffee's been roasted to the level it should be. Fourth check is moisture checkers. So once you have always a fall off from the green bean to the roaster bean, how much moisture is left in the coffee, and you kind of want to keep that to a certain level. Again, with almost, I don't think there's any artisanal roasters around that check that number. Very, very important number to check. Again, commercial roasters check that every time. Last bit is your TDS analysis, and this is kind of your final check. It's a post check. What you would do, you would have your coffee beans, you'd roast them, and now you would brew some coffee, and you would check that the TDS of the coffee is where it needs to be once it's been brewed. And that kind of tells you if all your pre-checks have been done in accordance, and that's your final check to say, yes, my coffee which has now been brewed is what it should be. And that's why artisanal roasters are good, but you got to hope you're going to get the right cup of coffee from there. Thank you. Thank you so much for watching. If you found it useful and helpful and you want to learn more, please subscribe now.